housing initiatives. We also educate residents about their rights, available resources, and potential solutions to improve their living conditions. In the course of our advocacy campaigns, we have campaigned for the rebuilding of the Falun Dogongada community bridge and, and also better waste management facilities for the same community. As an organization, we hope to keep doing all there is within our capacity to ensure that Nigerians have access to safer, to more affordable and sustainable housing and better living conditions. Thank you very much. So with this, can we all it's okay. So now that we know who we are, sorry for the breaking transmission, we're back live now. Now that we know who we are, can we, or wherever we are at, can we be at attention for the national anthem as we open this meeting? The the urban environment, we experience a lot of challenges from issues with waste management to, climate change to, there's just a lot going on. But we believe as real initiative, we believe, with the different speakers coming in and, seasoned speakers with a lot of experience, we will be able to explore solutions, real solutions that can empower the young generation so that we can all build a sustainable urban future. Thank you. So next on our agenda is the keynote address by Dr. Dirisu, who is the Executive Director of the Policy Innovation Center. So while we wait for her to, to give her keynote address, we would quickly talk about something very interesting. So I mean, about a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks or so ago, we made a call, the Real Initiative made a call to young people between the ages of 18 to 25. And we said, if you have a creative idea, if you have, you know, um, anything really, strategic, you have an idea, you have an innovative thought on how young people can be empowered to build a sustainable urban future, then, you should make a video 60 seconds or less, sharing your ideas, sharing your thoughts, and let's see what ways there are that we can truly empower young people to create a sustainable urban future. And guess what? Like after the call, we got a lot of entries, we got a lot of submissions, and the creativity of the young people, it was just mind blowing. Like literally, our team was blown away because we could, by the time the judges sat down to say, okay, let's choose a winner for this challenge, because, oh well, we attached the prize to it, to the winner. The winner is going to go with 250,000 naira. By the time our judges sat down to check, okay, so who is the winner of this challenge? It was difficult because there were a lot of creative ideas, a lot of creative videos, a lot of creative entries, and we're like, wow, what do we do now? You know. So yes, this call was actually guided by our team for the World Habitat Day, right? And the global team for the World Habitat Day, which is engaging youth to create a better urban future. So of all the entries that we got, which I think came to about 20 in all, we would be selecting one winner, and that winner would be announced at the end of this, towards the end of this event, actually. So that will be in a matter of about another 1 hour or so. So very shortly, um, you will know the winner of this challenge. We hope that we all stay tuned. Of course, um, we had a criteria. We had, criteria here and there, which our judges used. The criteria for winner selection included creativity. Creativity took about 20% of out of 100%. Then the relevance of, what they have said, what the ideas, the thoughts they had shared, was going to take 30%. Then the presentation style, 20%. How impactful the message was, 20%. Then the media engagement, the social media engagement, another 10%, making a total of 100%. So towards the end of this event, we'll let you know who the winner is and who is going home with our 250,000 naira. All right then. Um, so we'd love to know if our keynote is ready for us.
Abuja, Port Harcourt. We see that rapid expansion happening. Lagos is one of the most rapidly growing metropolitan cities globally. And when we think about the potential, for example, to shape for broader socio-economic development for our country. If in addressing pressing issues facing our communities, issues relating to climate change, poverty, sustainable housing, and infrastructure. So, one of the questions we should be asking ourselves today as we mark the World Habitat Day would be, how can we create platforms to invite young people to the conversation, not as passive participants, but as co-decision makers in design, planning, and management of our urban spaces. I'll share a few reflections this morning. One, let's talk about affordable housing. There's no sustainable urban future without affordable housing. Housing is fundamental. Everybody has their human dignity and optimal economic participation optimized when they have access to housing. And in order to ensure that we have access to housing for a large population, we have to think about inclusive approaches to driving affordable housing. Failure to provide adequate housing would undermine efforts to build sustainable cities. There are a lot of conversations that have gone on about opportunities to maximize inclusive and innovative approaches to developing local materials, embracing alternative housing models, shared living, co-living, co-spaces where we are using not substandard or low quality materials, but also just ensuring that within the context of the resources we have, we're able to scale solutions and drive opportunities to provide housing at scale. It's okay to build low cost housing and give 100 people, keys to a new house and cut a ribbon for 100 people. But when you're thinking about large populations, we need to be thinking more at scale. What sort of opportunities and innovative thinking can we bring into ensuring that ecologically friendly housing, environmentally sustainable housing, becomes what drives how our urban cities in Nigeria begin to develop going forward. Another reflection I have this morning is around urban migration, multidimensional poverty, and climate risks in African cities. We see what's happening currently in our society. Due to security challenges, people are having to even move from rural areas in search of, economic opportunities. So we are seeing congestions in a rural, in an urban areas, is driven in rural settings. But we're now seeing a lot more urban poverty, and that was also reflected in the multidimensional poverty index results that we saw, for example, for 2021. We're also seeing climate risks, and this is because as we continue to And so, in thinking about this sort of dimensions, we are going to begin to reflect, for example, on in building a sustainable urban future, what conversations should we be having about water? What conversations should we be having about sanitation? What conversations should we be having about hygiene? How do we ensure that infrastructure in urban cities is moving up to match the rate at which urban migration is happening? And also, how do we also begin to think about even addressing the issues around rural urban migration? If we create opportunities in rural areas, create infrastructure, improve conditions for economic development, even of our rural areas, we can in parallel address three issues. One, rural urban migration. Two, improving living conditions in rural areas, but also improving economic productivity also in these rural areas. Because when we keep talking about sustainable urban futures in the context of multidimensional poverty, we would really be just swinging along the pendulum if we're not thinking about the broad spectrum issues that are driving migration of young people and generally populations from rural to urban areas. And then also issues relating to gender equity in urban planning, a conversations that we've always had about sustainable urban futures also speaks to how people who are vulnerable, so young people, persons with disability, marginalized populations, can thrive efficiently within our urban settings. Look at our transportation system. Is it designed for example, pregnant women, people who have to use assisted living in one way or the other? Are they able to commute and go about their daily businesses seamlessly? And so when we begin to think about sustainable urban futures, we also have to think about how our urban development is a lot more inclusive. Historically, cities have been designed in ways that exclude women, persons with disabilities, and vulnerable groups. So cultural and social norms and gender biases also limit access of women and young people to safe, affordable housing. If you come to rent a house and you're young, people may stereotype you on that basis and begin to ask you a lot more questions and profile you in ways that creating conditions that are completely difficult to match. So in thinking about inclusive sustainable urban development, we also have to begin to think about inclusive urban planning that helps us to ensure that public spaces, transportation, housing, and all that is designed with universal access in mind, so that everyone, regardless of gender, physical ability, can live and thrive in urban settings. We have policies, we have Nigeria's Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Act. We have a lot of policies that seek to protect vulnerable groups, but we need to ensure that these policy conversations come into conversations where we're discussing issues around urban planning and urban development. Now, coming to focus more on young people, how do we begin to see young people as agents of change, which is really what I'm trying to begin to speak to? I think, first of all, is to fix our educational system. Our educational system must address the current existential gaps that makes it difficult for a young person to go through school and think innovatively outside the box about solving problems within their local environment. A lot of the education that we have is driven by, let's go through a curriculum, let's get people through school, secondary school, university, without actually reflecting on what sort of practical ways people can use what they have learned to begin to drive opportunities for sustainable development. So one is fixing our educational system. Second is creating real opportunities within our environment to ensure that young people's potential is not underutilized. We have a lot of issues that young people can contribute to. Conversations about renewable energy, waste reduction, creation of green spaces, conversation about building sustainable raw materials for urban development. So we need to begin to create hubs, not just hubs where we have innovations in tech, but bring innovation around urban development into some of our hubs and get young people to begin to ideate on what sort of solutions they can have. We need to begin to think about how to prioritize youth leadership across the entire spectrum, whether we're looking at committees for water resources, we're looking at committees for climate adaptation. How do we bring young people to be right at the center of the conversation, right at the center of the table, so that we can begin to create and innovate opportunities for green jobs, to address youth unemployment, and link young people directly with being part of the change that we want to see in our country. And as we talk more about this, we also need to begin to think about how young people can also be the solution with transforming urban transportation. Every day on the internet, we see a young person who has developed some motorized vehicle, or now we see people creating alternative, having conversations about alternatives to the current fuel, diesel, petrol, and all that. We need to begin to see how we can create platforms for young people to engage and begin to rethink what sort of urban transportation system and urban development systems around urban transport system should look like. Also, I just want to speak briefly about one of the benefits with ensuring that we're able to begin to transform our cities is we can create opportunities for young people to think about alternatives such as cycling, um, going to walk, creating walkable initiatives, encouraging people to walk. But all this is not possible if we do not have a pedestrian infrastructure. And then finally, in creating my own call to action today, I want to talk about public-private partnerships. With everything that we have said and understanding that government plays a critical central role, it's impossible for us to do this without understanding that we have to have private sector at the table. So just reflecting on thinking about how do we begin to bring private sector to the conversation. What incentives can we give private sector to ensure that they are also on board with supporting youth initiatives for creating sustainable urban neighborhoods? How do we begin to reskill and upskill young people to begin to think outside the box? How do we ensure, for example, that we're creating opportunities to fund sustainable cities? We talk a lot about funding for health. We talk a lot about funding for education. We talk a lot about funding for a lot of other pressing developmental challenges. My call to action today is that we need to begin to see sustainable urban futures as an urgent risk that requires all stakeholders on board: government, private sectors, policymakers. We need to have a lot more initiatives like the Real initiative is doing, to begin to think about legislation that will support affordable housing, support green jobs, support sustainable infrastructure, maybe even some affirmative action around ensuring that some critical resource allocation is devoted on a year-on-year basis to funding sustainable urban development. Development organizations, a lot more should rise up and begin to think about capacity building programs. So, what are sort of training opportunities do we need to think about that we're bringing into our hubs, into our youth development areas, so that as we're thinking about so many other innovations in so many other areas, we're also thinking about innovating for sustainable urban development. We need to begin to help young people to rise up to leadership. They must remain at the forefront of conversations about sustainable urban futures. We must give them that seat that they need on the table and help them to see more than ever that they will play a critical role in innovating for sustainable development and sustainable urban futures in Nigeria. Thank you so much for listening.
Government officials to leaders and founders of private organizations, this is a call to every stakeholder on board to begin to pay special attention to the youth. You know, I think one of her last points, she spoke about public-private partnership. Literally, nothing would be possible without your input as a private stakeholder, as a government stakeholder. We need everyone to come together and make this happen. Thank you very much, Dr. Dirisu. We really appreciate you. That was very rich. That was very insightful. Thank you so much. So going forward and taking us forward, we'll have our first lecture, which is going to be presented by Engineer Victor Adamu, CEO, Green and Smart Technology. He's going to be taking us on a lecture theme, solar energy, empowering youth to build a sustainable urban future. Here's another time that is going to be very insightful. There are a lot of young people on this call. I adjure you to pay close attention so that, at the end of these 2 hours, you're not just leaving this call and wondering, oh, what did I even gain? Hope I didn't just waste my time. We need you to pay attention and pick every single thing that you can pick from here. And so that, you're able to apply it to real life as you leave this call. Thank you so much. So we want to welcome Engineer Victor Adamu for his lecture.
Now, how well do these buildings produce energy? Sometimes we see rooftops now becoming power plants and even able to feed the grid in some climes. And so this is another urban trend we're seeing that affects, decent living and urban development. We also see that clearly production and manufacturing is now being driven, of course, by energy efficiency. Um, we see that there is a shift towards green manufacturing, which means the use of clean energy in manufacturing. And our ability to adapt to that is a trend for today and also for the future. And finally, energy transition. We're not left behind even in Nigeria. Nigeria is committed to net zero carbon emissions by 2060. And interestingly, this will cost about $400 billion if we want to achieve. That tells you of the magnitude of investment and activity that will be, happening in that sector around energy transition. Next slide, please. And so, I mean, having seen first, what empowers the youth in terms of what drives, people's decision to move or to stay anywhere. I mean, and we clearly said that's around the earning opportunities, the learning opportunities, and decent living opportunities. Like I had put on my first slide, I said, I mean, that is what drives migration, including the Japa syndrome that we're experiencing in Nigeria. And then we've gone on to see urban trends around the kind of things that are happening with mobility, the kind of things happening with shelter and buildings, and also production, manufacturing, and even learning. And so now, where are the areas where we can apply solar energy to these trends so that we tie it to earning, learning, and decent living? Next slide, please. There are, there are so many opportunities, but I have just tried to um, put up a few. Now, for me, the focus is not to make you solar energy experts. This is World Habitat Day. I believe that online we have a wide range of young people that are already engaged doing one thing or the other. So my focus is to see how can what you are doing be enhanced by solar energy. Now you would see that there are so many earning opportunities. I think just about every earning opportunity can be enhanced by solar energy, from solar powered agriculture, where you have irrigation, you have mills, you have cold chain, or what we call refrigeration and managing of vegetables, or things like milk and the rest of that. You also have food production and processing. Even within our homes, there are people that make fruit juice, people that make zobo and all that. All that can be powered with solar energy. Fabrication and creating new items and things, from welding, from the skilled handiwork people, all can be enhanced by solar energy. Content creation, what we have here and what we're doing, projecting this online, powered by solar energy as well. Garment making, as well as whatever service provision you can think of, even the barber's salon or the hairdressing salon. Now, the key takeaways for me in speaking about the very many opportunities that are there, where we can use solar energy to create earning opportunities and drive our future, is that we must look at how do we make solar energy profitable for our everyday activities. And this goes beyond just transiting or using clean energy. Solar energy, in our situation where we have energy poverty, access to energy in Nigeria is, I mean, there are over 50% of, about 45% of our population do not have access to energy. So our concern more is not really even transition in terms of clean energy and a sustainable environment. Our concern is more around, giving access. And so when we speak around powering our activities with solar energy, we understand that it gives us access and it is desirable for us to look at it. Now, again, a lot of times in looking at earning opportunities, People might want to be tempted, oh, where I am is not giving me the kind of returns I want. Can I learn new skills? And I'm sure some have come on to this lecture thinking, oh, perhaps I'm going to learn, something new about solar, and maybe I start a solar business and things like that. Sorry to disappoint you, but for me, the focus is not to make you start a new solar business, but to enhance whatever you are doing. It's better to focus on what you're doing, because the learning of something new, especially something as technical as solar, has a steep learning curve, and you get burnt out as a young person. That, and the time it requires, the money and all that. So a key takeaway is, can we focus on powering our existing earning opportunities with solar? And then another takeaway for me is, you know, in improving what you are doing, right? You have to focus on making sure that what you are doing earns you something sustainably, and you need to learn, um, you need to focus more on learning and learning new things to ensure new things around what you're doing, to ensure that what you're doing is more profitable and can drive, decent living for you. And so before I pause to take questions and engage, for me, the call to action, the, the second to the last slide, please. Um, if we look at the three key things, like I had said to you, just keep in mind earning, learning, and decent living. You'll see that the biggest barrier to leveraging solar energy is usually the cost, the initial cost. And, um, you know, when you think of the cost, you might be discouraged. But in terms of making that decision, the call to action for me will be that start with enhancing your learning opportunities, right? That should be the first thing you must think of when you think of solar energy. Now, if you are a service provider, if you are a content creator, whatever you are doing, you require energy to power it. Your focus should be, how can I leverage solar energy to power what I'm doing so that it is cost effective and so that I am sustainable in what I'm doing. And when you do that, you might look at the cost, but I say in looking at the cost, look at it long term, which means what's the capital and operational cost that these involve. And that will help you convince yourself to, leverage solar energy, as well as convince sources of financing that you might be looking to. Now, again, there has to be a discipline of understanding that with things like that are cost intensive like this, you have to focus on first earning before you use it for other things. And I would like to say that you should be disciplined enough to know that in leveraging solar energy, let the focus be to first earn before you transition to other things. Now, for learning, you can learn just about anything on the internet. And so think of leveraging solar energy while you're on the internet. Now, solar energy can be as basic as having a solar charger for your phone. Now, when you have a charged phone, can you focus on using that charged phone to learn something new on the internet, and not, just for the mere fact that you are on the internet browsing and looking up things. Now, the interesting thing about using this is that it can be scaled. So like I said, I can just buy what is sufficient to power my laptop and my phones, and perhaps not necessarily look at my home or my entire house at that moment, just to ensure that I learn better to earn better. And then finally, the thing is that once your earning opportunities have improved and your learning has improved, then you can start to think of improving on your living opportunities as well. And of course, living opportunities, there are so many areas where you can deploy solar energy in your transportation, in your homes, making it entirely sustainable and possibly off the grid. And even other aspects of your living can be powered, from cooling to your refrigeration to even your solar water heaters can be powered by solar energy. And so you know, finally, decentralization of solar, I mean, the decentralization of energy access that solar brings to us makes this a possibility. Before now, you have to wait on the grid to reach you, get connected to the grid and all that. But now with, relatively lower spend, you can get access to energy using solar technology. So to re-emphasize, earning, learning, and decent living should be our focus when we think of leveraging solar energy to power a sustainable urban future for the young person. Now, these are call to action. I'm speaking directly to the young people so that this is relevant to you. Um, I mean, this is not, directed, would I say, to policymakers or to government, but this is more to empower young people. I've not also come to make you skilled, but to show you the areas where you can apply this to, and so that you can spend more time learning and improving your earning opportunities, and hopefully your decent living opportunities will improve as well. Thank you, and I'll pause here for questions. If you have any questions. Okay, so that was well understood. No questions. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And please look out for opportunities to leverage solar energy to power your earning, your everyday learning, and your decent living as you go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, engineer. Wow. Honestly, when we gave that thing or that topic, solar energy, I didn't really know what to expect, right? It felt like, okay, maybe we have to start a solar business or something. But this is so clear. Earning, everyone on the call today, if you don't remember anything, remember earning, remember learning, remember disagreeing. So to enhance your earning, you must improve learning. You must invest in learning, right? Yes, so you don't have to stop what you are doing to start building a solar business. You just need to leverage solar energy to improve what you are doing, to enhance what you are doing. Someone has a question here for you, sir. Yes.
Okay, I hear there's a question. Okay, I hear from friends that solar energy can reduce the shelf life of a laptop. Please, how true is this? So, energy, everything around energy is very scientific. So, if you understand math, you understand that 1 plus 1 equals 2. So, there is nothing ambiguous about it. Um, on your power pack, the only way the solar energy gets to your laptop is through your power pack. Your power pack has ratings, right? And the ratings on your power pack are so low that there is no impact on it in terms of voltage levels that will be transmitted to your laptop to have any negative effect on the laptop. So usually you don't need more than 50 watts on an average laptop. And if you understand the ratings, you know that with solar energy and your inverters and all that, you can very well deliver 50 watts at a very sustainable level without fluctuations, especially where you have storage in between the solar system and your device. Okay, can solar energy power a 10-story building with over 1,000 units of rooms and flats? Yes, solar energy can power a city, not just a building. It is what determines, it is the scale at which you deploy it. Um, but what makes it even more possible is the efficiency of those buildings. So if I have a building where I have carefully designed it to ensure that I'm making good use of daylighting, one, I'm making good use of natural heating, and natural heating and maybe heat retention as well, the kind of systems, the kind of building materials I use. It then shows that I have made my buildings very efficient. And with more efficient buildings, it means your power need is dropped. And with your power need being dropped, of course, you can power large buildings with solar energy. Now, those buildings, the differences will be two things. You either have a day building or you have a night building. Now, night will be residential buildings, and so in that case, you will need, storage. Now, the size of the storage is determined by how efficient your building is again. If I have efficient buildings that don't require a lot of cooling and heating, it means my energy need is lower, and then the battery storage doesn't have to be large. Now, in cases where it is a day building that people use only from morning to, say, 6 p.m., of course, you wouldn't need significant storage. And so if you have a 10-story building that's an office complex, in that case, your spend as well for solar energy would also be low. All right, next question. So how about tenants that would want to use electric cookers and other appliances that may affect the solar panels? Now, of course, electric cookers and heavy appliances, like I had said, the caveat I had given was that the building has to be efficient in its use. So not just electric cookers, even your fridge freezers, as well as your ACs have to be efficient. So when you have a centralized system, that is when you will then be concerned that, okay, the point of generation is different from point of use. And so you might have people that don't understand and we plug heavy appliances. What we do in those cases is per design, you make sure that the sockets that are tied to those heavy appliances are not put in the circuit that is served by the solar system. And that way, of course, you make it difficult for people to use heavy equipment. But if your point of use is close to your point of generation, which means you have it in your house and you are using it by yourself, of course, you will be disciplined enough to ensure that you don't use heavy equipment, because when the batteries go out, it is you who will stay in darkness. So from experience, I know that one thing people learn how to manage very well are solar systems, because they benefit from the energy that comes from it. All right. I think that's all for questions. Thank you very much for your questions. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, of course you can get bigger batteries, but the cost increases as well. So usually good design is to make it cost effective for you. And at the moment, our battery technology is not as efficient as, making it cost effective in that sense. So if you need a battery bank that will power cookers and water heaters and all that, that will be quite a sizable battery bank, and that will be expensive as well, and that will discourage investment in solar energy. Thank you. I think that's all for the questions from now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Damu. That session was really insightful. So, young people, I hope you've heard you have to invest in learning so that you can earn more, right? And then you can invest in things like solar that would improve your productivity generally. I remember when we used to have a lot of lights out. I think around February in Nigeria when, almost every location in Nigeria is having a blackout. Maybe you just have light for like 3 hours per day, and then if you work from home, for example, or work from an office where you don't have generators or you know solar energy, you're just there and you are not useful for the whole day, right? It's just nothing. So we hope that this session is something that we can apply in our day to day and then improve our lives generally. So next, if you have any question for Dr. Dirisu, our keynote speaker, you can drop it in the chat box. I think we can still find a way to have her answer your question. And for the person who is asking if they can get access to the files, the PDF, and all, yes, if you registered for this event, we would have it mailed to you. So that's not a concern. So that you can read through, you can still learn. So next on our program, next on our agenda, is, or rather, a second lecture from the CEO of Romeo Construct Limited, the Executive Director of Real Initiative. He'll be talking for 15 minutes before the chairperson of Hydroform comes up. So we are going to give room for Mr. Doyin Adewala, ED, Real Initiative. He'll be talking on fractional real estate investment and giving us perspective as to how fractional real estate investment can empower young people to create a sustainable urban future. I hope you have an insightful
solar energy, right? Having a solar energy business, but more or less access, pretty much earning, learning, and also having a decent living. And that's also the concept of the fractional real estate investment. Globally, about 24% of the population in urban centers live in informal settlements, what we call slums, right? And you would also find out that most of those people are young, right? They are very young people who don't have access to um, ownership. Pretty much the challenges we have about housing in urban centers is ownership, and people also don't have access to decent living. So I'll be talking about an innovative approach to real estate ownership, which is what we call fractional real estate investment. You might also want to look at it as crowdfunding, right? It might just mean different things to you. If I can have my slides up, right? First, to say that it just means co-owning property with other people, right? It doesn't matter whether yourself or your family members or your colleagues or whoever you think you share values come together to own property. Most important thing is that you're leveraging the crowd, the power of a community to own property. Real estate is very high in cost globally. It's not just a Nigerian problem, and sort of we also think it is more of an economic challenge, right? A lot of people say, oh, we don't have enough houses, we need affordable houses. But beyond all of that conversation, there is need to understand that it is an economic challenge. It's an economic problem first, because in Africa, in Nigeria, we're not as productive. We have the mortgage system abroad in the US, in the UK, where you just put down some down payments and you own a property. But for us, it's not existent. Mortgage, what we call mortgage in Nigeria, is actually just a loan, because you still get applied, you still get about 10, 15, 20, 30% of the commercial banking terms applied to whatever amount you're getting on the property purchase, loan for property purchase. So pretty much we have to think out of the box with property ownership. And that's what I'll be talking about, fractional real estate investment. If you can go to the next slide. And so it's pretty much a system that allows multiple investors to buy shares or fractions of a property rather than purchasing the entire property. Like I said, real estate is high in capital. It is capital intensive. A three-bedroom, for instance, in a place like an Abuja, won't be less than 25, 30 million naira, depending on the location, right? They say real estate is all about location, location. So I'm just talking about the average locations, maybe in one of the suburbs like Kubwa or Gwagwalada or Kuje or Lugbe, for instance. If you come back to the city centers, you see these properties are higher in price. So fractional real estate investment helps young people to co-own, anyone pretty much, but because our focus here on World Habitat Day 2024 is about young people, we'll be focusing on fractional real estate investment for young people. So the first is that it helps people who might not necessarily afford, able to afford real estate to co-own properties. The second is the entry barrier, because like I said, real estate is expensive. Because of that crowd factor, the community factor, you can own property, and it also allows investments into real estate, right? Most of the people who have built their wealth all over the world have built it in real estate. Most of the billionaires across the world, it's not just in Nigeria and the US. So real estate is actually one of the very certain ways for building wealth. And why is that? Because it is a very low risk investment. You can go to the next slide. I'm talking about the benefits now of investing in real estate. It is low in risk, right? That's one of the things that make real estate a great investment. Secondly, is that it allows diversification of your assets. So before now, let's just imagine that you could even afford to own a property in a location, wherever, either in Nigeria or wherever, any other part of the world. The fractional real estate investment allows you to diversify your investment by owning assets in different environments. So just imagine the way you buy shares in companies. You own Guaranteed Trust Bank shares, you own Zenith Bank shares, or you even have Facebook shares. And it might just not be too much in volume, capital volume, might just be like $10 or 50,000 naira or something very affordable, right? That's another advantage it gives to you, because it helps you to diversify, meaning you can buy portions in different locations, such that you will hardly find a situation whereby your property or your assets go bad at once. That's the advantage of diversification. And finally, on the key benefits of fractional real estate investment is passive income. These investments in themselves, it's not like you own the assets and you're living in it. Yes, that's some other conversation, but for now we're talking about access for to start participating in real estate in urban development, because that's also one of the ways you can have a voice and have be a stakeholder in urban development. So it gives you passive income. So just imagine you have maybe 10, 20, 30, 50, or 100 of you come together to own a property in a location in Abuja or Lagos, and you start to earn from that on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, depending on the rental plan, you start to earn. So it gives you passive income. So the first benefit is that it's very reduced in risk. Second is that it gives you opportunity for diversification. And finally, it gives you potential for passive income, which is what we call dividends in the stake of stock markets. And so why is it important for the young people, right? Young people can make an impact on urban development by investing in sustainable and green infrastructure. So just like Victor talked about, where you can decide to go off grid, for instance, right? One of the advantages of this is that you are also not contributing to the poisonous gases we have in our environment. So you are certain that your building is green by the power you're using, so you can decide on how you want your property to be built. Second advantage for young people is affordability, right? I think majority of young people, especially those who are earning, who have a job, who have a small business, can afford about 20,000 naira a month. with investments, I think what makes investments really, really worthwhile is the consistency, right? And it being affordable gives you that opportunity of staying consistent with your investment. So you can put some money aside on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, as it were, as it relates to you, and to invest in fractional real estate, right? And don't forget that this is also applicable in whatever location you are in the world, right? The third importance for young people is the wealth creation. Like I mentioned earlier, that fractional or real estate, as it were, is one of the ways people build wealth. So what it means is that rather than getting disenfranchised from real estate investments, you don't have 50 million naira, you don't have 100 million naira. With your 25,000 naira, you can start participating, and you also get about the same returns or the same benefit as someone who had bulk funds. Traditional real estate purchases often require high down payments. I talked about that already. I talked about the passive income, the sustainability part, and also appreciation, which is the benefit from the rising value of the property. What we also understand is that there are different factors that affect real estate, right? So in a place like Nigeria, which is still developing, Abuja, where I reside, which is still developing, you will know that some areas just increase in value based on how the government brings the infrastructure to those places. So that's one of the advantages you get with real estate investment. And in this case, fractional, because now you can participate at a very low entry level and get maximum return. Right. Some of the other benefits which I want to talk about with fractional real estate investment is the skill development part of it. Right. You know, when you want to go into real estate development, there are a lot of actors in it. And in some cases, or in most cases, it's difficult for you to do that with minimal investment, with low funds. So with fractional real estate investment, you get to understand the markets at a very small level, more like what we call low hanging fruit or testing the waters before you put in big funds or high capital. So you understand the markets. Engaging in real estate investment helps young people grasp the dynamics of property markets, the valuation, and the risk management. That is really important. So we're not saying you cannot lose money in real estate. We're just saying that the risk is low, and it is lower when you come in through fractional real estate investment, meaning you're doing things at a smaller scale. Talking about the skill development for young people is also the property management side of it. You get to understand what it means to acquire tenants, even though with fractional real estate investment, you sort of transfer that property management responsibility to some other people, right? It's not necessarily your border. You can transfer that responsibility to a third party to manage your assets. But as it were, you can still understand the whole dynamics of property management. And thirdly is that investing in projects that promote urban growth introduces youth to concept in urban design, sustainable city planning, and infrastructure development. And finally, entrepreneurial skills. This is more like you having a side business or a side gig. Yes, you can have a full-time job, but when you invest in real estate, you can still do business in a very passive way and build your entrepreneurial skills, right? Encourages financial literacy, collaboration with other investors, strategic decision making, and empowering youth to lead in the property sector, right? Can we go to the next slide? The role of fractional real estate in urban sustainability, right? I think most of these things I've talked about. Let me talk about the scalability factor, which is more or less what we can also refer to in that sense of in the sense of diversification. Because if you were to invest your funds in one or two properties, it's difficult for you to scale. Real estate is a very brick and mortar-ish business where you can't easily scale. Just imagine what it would take you to go to Lagos, to go to Abuja, to go to wherever you want to have your property developed. But with fractional, you can easily scale your investment because you can come together in small micro investment, as it were, right? So let's take real life examples of fractional real estate, how they can drive change, a case study. That's the next slide, right? So just imagine an investor in a certain city pulling funds together for affordable housing projects, providing housing to low-income families while generating passive income for themselves. There is always a shortage of houses, right? So what this means is that you kind of contribute to the supply of housing in urban centers, right? For instance, I'm sure young people in Abuja will always agree with me that most times you're looking for properties to rent, especially in very decent areas, right? So with fractional, when you put funds together, for instance, 100 people put funds together for development, in whatever little way, you're also adding to the supply of property, of buildings, of housing in that environment. And the other use case for that is that fractional real estate investors help fund the construction of eco-friendly urban apartment complexes, reducing the city carbon footprint and creating sustainable living spaces. In this sense, you can decide how you want your properties to be built, making it efficient in energy. Finally, before I round off, I'll also just talk about the fact that fractional real estate investment is a long-term thing, right? We always say that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? So think about 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, what your decision in contributing to the supply of housing is in a long period. So more or less plan for long term. Don't think about just 1 year and be consistent with it. So finally, on the last slide, Victor, can you go to the last slide? Youth investors have the power to influence urban development, creating spaces that align with their generation's values and building personal wealth and contributing to a sustainable future. Pretty much, like I said, it is long term in nature. Real estate is long term, and you're not just doing it for yourself. Yes, you're making money in the process, but you're also contributing to urban development. You're contributing to supply of houses, and also by the way you decide to build these properties as a group, as a community, you can also build the environment, make the environment better. If you need questions, if you need to ask questions, you can ask right now. That's about the end of my slide. Thank you for listening, and I do hope you have a good World Habitat Day. Thank you.
Mr. Doing. Please, we need you here for a bit. So thank you so much for that profound lecture. We have a question here for you from Solomon Kingston. Does my Roy appreciate over time? Roy, no, returns on investment.
Absolute yes, it appreciates over time because, like I said, fractional real estate investment is just the same way anyone can own properties, and it appreciates over time, right? It is also like a hedge against inflation, because a place like Nigeria that is highly import dependent, most of the building materials have a lot of correlation with the foreign exchange. So yes, your investment appreciates over time, and also your investment is not depreciating, right? It keeps appreciating. So beyond the fact that you get returns, you also get appreciation on capital, right? Over time. And I hope that answers your question. Hi, Christy. Is that the only question? Okay. What is the entry cost for students like us? For Romeo's fractional real estate investment, the entry cost is 25,000 naira, right? But that can also be in multiples. For instance, 25,000 naira would be a percentage of the entire value of the real estate, right? So if you want to own more, it means you have to buy multiples of 25,000 naira. I guess that would answer your question about the entry cost. And someone says, please explain the part where you said that people that invest 25,000 naira will have equal benefit with people that invest 1 million naira. Okay, what I meant is that um, if you, let's even imagine that you have 50 million naira and you buy a house, for instance. If the appreciation of that property is 20% per annum, right? If you invested 10,000 naira, the 20% per annum still applies to you. You haven't been disenfranchised from the returns on investment because you have a micro investment in real estate. That's the point I'm trying to make. Of course, in terms of volume, it won't be the same thing, but in terms of the same of benefits, um, in terms of return on investment, in terms of capital appreciation, you will still get the same benefit. I hope that explanation helps. Right. Is there another question, please? Do we really own the property? Can we sell? Yes, you do own the property. If you understand the way the stock market works, that's pretty much the same concept as fractional real estate investment. If you own, say, 10 shares, I don't know how much Guaranteed Trust Bank shares is right now, but let's imagine that one share worth 50 naira and you own 10 shares. That means you have 500 naira within the capitalization of Guaranteed Trust Bank. Yes, you can lay claim to that shares. It's still, you're a part owner. Yes, someone might have about 50% or 20% of the company. But no matter how little your percentage ownership is, you are still the owner. Yes, you have a right, certain right, pretty much, and you can sell as well. And that also applies to us with Rumia's fractional real estate investment. You can sell your shares whenever you want to, and you follow the procedure to do that. Do we have any question? Someone says, please, what if someone wishes to buy using a different currency? Will the return on investment be calculated in that currency? Okay, so what we're doing right now is that we're making people buy the properties in Nigeria in Naira. And when we have assets in America and the UK, you can also buy in dollars or in pound sterling, as it were. So pretty much Nigerian assets stay in Nigerian currency. Foreign assets also stay in foreign currencies. And I think the dollar is about the most acceptable currency in the global markets, right? So if you are buying a property, buying fractions in a property in Nigeria using Naira, it means that if you're buying fractions in the property abroad, you're using dollars, and your returns comes in the currency of purchase. If you're selling as well, your returns come in the currency of purchase. That's pretty much how it works. I hope that helps, Treasure or Samo. Thanks for joining us today. Any other question? Okay.
For that lecture. Thank you so much for that lecture. That was very insightful. So we now see that to build a sustainable urban future, economic sustainability is very important, right? So we see that you can build wealth by investing in real estate. So for every young person here, I'm just reminded about Mr. Adamu's lecture when he said you should also increase your earning power so that you can get money to invest in things that can actually appreciate and help you build wealth and sustainability. Things like real estate, right? So thank you again, Mr. Join. That was very profound. Um, okay, so we're going on to our third lecture. We're supposed to have the song interlude, but we are out of time. We need to get into our third lecture. Um, just to also remind us, if you have any question for the keynote speaker, you can still drop it in the chat box. So right now, we are moving on to our third and final lecture for the day, Alternative Building Technology, Empowering Youth for a Sustainable Urban Future. And this lecture will be taken by engineer Abdul Hakim Putman. He's a chairperson of Hydroform Nigeria, very seasoned, very experienced in the building industry with alternative building technology. And he's going to give perspective to how um, maximizing alternative building technology can empower the youth to build a sustainable urban future. You're welcome, sir.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my name is Abdul Hakim Babatune Hukman. I'm the group chairman of Hydroform Nigeria. I welcome you all to this occasion of Habitat Day. I started participating in Habitat Day celebration since 2000. The topic for discussion is alternative building technology, empowering youth to build a sustainable urban future. The technology I will be discussing today is called hydroform building technology. It is an alternative building technology that has been deployed in over 70 countries. It has its origins in South Africa. Over 36 years ago, two gentlemen thought about a way to build cheaply using the local material available in Africa. What is today known as ISSB, interlocking soil cement block, is credited to hydroform. How do we use this technology to empower the youth and to build a sustainable future? I came in contact with hydroform building technology in 1996. Built the first house with hydroform building technology in Lagos in 1997 or thereabout. It has been a lifelong ambition to be able to house as many people as possible. So in the last 25 years, I have dedicated my life to building affordable houses. I'm preaching the gospel of alternative building technology, precisely hydroform. The journey started with the concept of building a house a year as a family endeavor. Then the idea now came, if we can build a house a year, we should find an alternative, cheaper building technology to deliver houses to generality of people. Today, as I stand before you, I came to Abuja in 1999, not knowing anybody, with the concept to promote this alternative building technology. we went to attend Kaduna Trade Fair in 1999 in Kaduna. After the trade fair, we took one hydroform building block-making machine to Abuja and stayed in a guest house for two weeks. Built our own, what we call a guest chalet, and moved in. That's how we came into Abuja. Not knowing anybody, never slept in anybody's house for one single night. This is just to tell you how empowering this technology is. A technology that we have leveraged upon to build a company in South Africa and in over 70 other countries to deliver affordable housing. We call it a solution to poverty. Why do we call it a solution to poverty? With this technology, I can teach anybody who is interested to produce this building block and to be able to build with it within a week. Whatever your calling, or no calling at all, whatever your level of education, that should not be a barrier to learn how to use this alternative building technology. In Nigeria, we have built over 2,000 houses in the course of running this business. We have worked with governments at federal and state level. We have able to convince the government that this alternative technology is worth looking at if we intend to solve the housing challenge that we face in most of the developing world. How will the youth benefit from this technology? One way is we have a robust training program where we transfer skills that leads to job creation. Because we provide sustainable solutions that meet basic human needs. Affordable housing. As at the last count, in Nigeria, we have housing deficit of around 20 million houses. Majority of our people live, don't be deceived with what you see in Abuja. Majority of our people live in subhuman conditions. With simple technology like hydroform, we can easily change the narrative. The question is, why hydroform? What are the benefits of using this technology? If we say we want to build an affordable house, the first thing that comes to mind is, what is the cost? I remember around the year 2002 or thereabout, Federal Housing Authority conducted what they call an experiment, where they put different housing technologies to side by side to build a specific kind of affordable house in Lube, Abuja. They brought in hydroform, brought in burnt brick, they brought in the conventional concrete block and the local burnt brick. That was close to 23 years ago. The conclusion from that report, which is publicly available, the cheapest building material then was the locally burnt brick, but it was not commercially viable. Next to that was hydrogen, and then the conventional brick, and lastly the burnt brick. What we have done in hydroform to make houses affordable is because the technology uses locally available soil. And anywhere you see vegetation, if you dig one half a meter to a meter deep, you find subsoil, otherwise called laterite. With our proprietary technology, we have designed various block making machines that when you mix laterite and a little quantity of cement, in volume terms, we're talking between 5 to 10% cement content. You will, in a hydroform block making machine, you produce a building block that are interlocking. All the 4 sides of the block are interlocking. What does that tell you? It's like the technology is like a Lego concept where children play with all kinds of blocks that are interlocking. The same thing with the hydroform concept. We have eliminated the use of mortar joints in the building of superstructures of the building. We have reduced to the barest minimum the use of concrete and steel reinforcement in the building of the house. We have moved the production of the building blocks right to the building site so that you can save on transportation. We have reduced the cost of labor for building of houses because you don't need a large number of skilled labor. The bulk of people within the community can be trained to deliver affordable houses. And the wealth and the resources used for building those houses will remain within that community, thereby empowering the youth of that community to continue to prosper. We have given them skills that can last a lifetime. We have gone all over the 36 states, including the FCT, to build, to train the youth. So, the technology has been able to empower young people by creating jobs and opportunities in the built environment. One of the other benefits of this technology is its ability. It has a very high thermal capacity. That is the ability to absorb and hold heat. If it's hot outside, in an hydroform house, it's cooler. And when it's cold outside, it's warmer in a hydroform house. That is why soil has been the oldest building material in the world. It is a green technology because it has a very low carbon footprint. when compared to other building materials. Without burning the fossil fuel or cutting down our woods in the forest, we still give you an attractive face brick finish. The technology, as I explained, is a very simple technology. Anybody can be taught. Anybody who is interested, whether a young lady, a young man, an old man, all are welcome to learn this very interesting and empowering technology. What is happening in most areas where we have used this technology is that there is a new spirit of entrepreneurship among the young people who are taking to investment in this technology to start a small business of their own. With an investment in one hydropump block making machine, you can start your own entrepreneurial journey. You can become a developer of affordable houses. People, I always tell people that you can never lose when you invest in real estate. Why? God has stopped creating land, but He has never stopped creating people. So, houses will continue to be valuable. And given the deficit, given the housing deficit of over 20 million houses, there is no way the business of building houses will not be profitable. So I encourage young people to go into that business, look at all available alternative technologies to start their own development companies, because the opportunities are just unbelievable all over the country. Everywhere you go, there are houses to be built, schools to be built, hospitals to be built. So, for you, as a young person today, the only job that is secured is the job you can find for yourself. That is, you have to be entrepreneurial. Yes, not everybody can become an entrepreneur. That's a fact. But the situation we have found ourselves in the country, the best way to solve the unemployment problem is for the youth to create their own jobs. And one of the easiest ways of doing that is to look at the market and say, what need can I satisfy in this market? Housing is a sure bet. If you can build 1,000 houses today, even only in Abuja, you can sell. So the issue is we go and look for When I came to this town in 1999, I didn't know anybody. So I had this concept or this idea. Why don't you write your president and tell him what you are doing in Abuja? A colleague told me, do you know Mr. President? Another one asked, how will you deliver the letter? You know my reply? I said, I don't need to know the president. I just need to tell the president what I can offer. And how will I deliver the letter to Mr. President? I said, look, what is the job of DHL, for God's sake? I wrote the letter, deliver the letter to DHL. I didn't hear from Mr. President for more than 6 months. But one quiet afternoon in my office, I got a call from the Minister of Works in the House, late Chief Tony Anene. Mr. Husband, can you see me in my office tomorrow at 10 o'clock? I said, I will be there, sir. When I got to his office the following day, I met captains of industry waiting to see the honorable minister. And I told myself, oh, he's going to waste my time today. So I walked across, I gave my card to the secretary to the honorable minister. She took in my card and the minister asked me to come. When I got to his office, the letter I wrote to Mr. President was on his table. And the president wrote on it, Tony, why don't you try this? They said the rest is history. Since year 2000 or thereabout, we have been working with the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing based on that same unit. You just need to be bold. You just need to look for your own calling. Nigeria is the best country in the world when it comes to opportunities. But most of us do not know. I will tell you today, that encounter, I was put on a delegation to go, federal delegation to go and build OT. They gave me 15 hectares of land in this Abuja. What did I say? 15 hectares. Without putting a cover on the table. Say, Mr. Hoodman, you said you could build affordable houses. Okay, we have given you 15 hectares. We are not going to give you any money. You go and look for the money, but we share profit with you. That is what we need here. Empower the people. We build the cheapest possible house you can get in Abuja for 4.6 million for a 3-bedroom, all en suite. Semi-detached bungalow with infrastructure delivered. We need to create an enabling environment. We are not asking for government to build for us mass housing. We just allow the masses to house themselves. That's what we're asking from government. Allow the people. If you look around our country today, all houses you see in our cities are built by individuals, by self-help, without any fear of exaggeration. I'll tell you 95% of houses, residential houses, are built by individuals. So, what we ask government on this day, at this time, at this particular hour, is to create an enabling environment for people to be able to house themselves. to create a financing model, not an imported mortgage system that cannot serve our people. If since our independence, the Nigerian financial system has not created more than 50,000 mortgage loans, then that system is not working for our people. We need to do anything. We need to put together a domesticated mortgage policy that will serve the generality of our people, that will take our people from living in subhuman condition in this day and age. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
So on this platform, this is a non-profit.
Yeah.
And we are hosting the World Habitat Day. And I think it's empowering us to do the If on this platform we seek to say, okay, there are young people of the group, are there any person who wants to learn the skill, what would it cost, what would it take to say, let's put like 2 people and say, okay, if you want to empower the skills, can you very
Look, we part of what we do, train people ordinarily, because it's a technology we are trying to promote all over the country. I've just returned from Taraba State about a week ago. We are training close to 300 people to use this technology. And we are able to train everybody who is even though we charge the training, but if it's for a specific event like this, then we can collaborate with the senior that to assist. Yes.
technology in school curriculum. So the first one says, how cheap are they compared to conventional pumps?
Generally speaking, the hydropump building technology is a walling element. So a walling element. And a building has different walling building elements. Roof, windows, doors. So I'm giving you the context so that when I say this is the amount of savings you can possibly make by using this technology, I'm referring to all the walling of the house. We look something in the region of between 12 to 15% on overall savings using this technology.
So the second question is, shouldn't this technology be introduced in school curriculum? Have you made any attempts to introduce it to school and see if people can learn it as a, because I know of creative subjects now that people learn in school, fishing, there are a lot of creative stuff, tailoring and tie and dye and stuff. So if this could be proposed,
Yes, we looked at that possibility. Um, particularly the universities and College of Technology, particularly those universities that have what they call entrepreneurial studies, that this technology can be used as a case study, and that when they can make a business case for the use of this technology. We have encouraged some technical schools and colleges of technology to integrate this building technology into their curriculum. Because what we have found over the years, that the so-called people who are specifiers, particularly the architects, they are always resisting recommending or specifying alternative technologies, because they are not just familiar with them and they are not as open-minded. It was late President Nyerere of Tanzania who said, there is a mental paralysis in Africa when it comes to housing. The house is not built with a concrete block and it's shining. It's not a house. We all know that is a lie. We have built for centuries in Africa with mud, and some of those structures are still standing and enduring. So this technology will be integrated to our schools.
Thank you very much, sir. Someone is asking, what are the challenges associated adopting hybrid for housing? I think he has partially answered that mindset of people, architects and stuff, trying to accept the technology and then recommend it to developers and people who want to do it. Why didn't you other challenges you want to have?
No, the challenge is that the governments at the three levels have not seen housing as important for the welfare of the people. Because the easiest way to create wealth is by housing the people. To create even the economy to grow. You don't know the number of jobs you can create by building one house. Just one house. Build a house. You see all those people, even the woman selling food will make money. It brings down crime rates. Shelter Africa, a premier financial institution in Africa, reported that they did a project in Uyo, Cross River State, building 500 houses, only 500 houses. Crime rate dropped by over 50% in Uyo Township. Your health has a direct correlation to where you live. They are missing a lot by not taking housing as very important. It's a very low hanging fruit to solve most of these economic problems. We at Hydroform, we have built houses with 90% local content. What does that tell you? Everybody wants to import. But the reality has caught up with us. Let's see how they continue to buy imported things at $1,780. and they want to house the people. That's why we are building houses people cannot afford.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think someone said that what the cost of building a three-bedroom apartment compared to a...
Yeah, look, that is all semantics, or what will it cost? A three-bedroom can be 200 square meters. A three-bedroom can be 70 square meters.
Yeah.
So it's not fixed. But what I can tell you is, if you use this technology, if you have 3 million, you can build it out. I told you I just returned from Taraba. We train people. Our training period is usually 2 weeks. And within that 2 weeks, you must build a structure. In 5 days, they built a 20 square meter studio apartment. In 5 days. So whatever you have, as long as you are committed, it's not the people don't take initiatives. My grandmother used to use one English language word. When she used to abuse us a kid, I didn't even know the meaning of that English word when I was a kid. She would say, "You lack gumption." Go and check that word, gumption. Gumption. Go and check it. My grandmother told us, she didn't go to school, but she would say, "You lack gumption." And what does it mean? It's because people lack resourcefulness. So, if I told you we trained people in 5 days to build a 20 square meter house, which we call a corpus lodge. So that unit can house 2 to 3 coppers during their service year. And we're done in 5 days. If my rough estimate, it will not have cost us more than 1.5 million. Yes, it's when we say a studio, what we're talking about is a room, a bedroom, its own kitchenette, toilet, and a little storage. Yeah, 20 square meters. It's a big place. It's almost the size of this place. This place is just a little bit bigger. Maybe this place is about 30 square. So, what we lack? I think that's for another day.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdul Hakim. Wow. Wow. I think that story about taking the letter to the presidency stood out for me. I mean, like a motivation. Wow. So this is one of the ways we can build a sustainable urban future, right? You may not necessarily wait to have all the money to build the very big house with the cement, with the normal blocks that you are used to. Owning a house can be, you can just have as little as 1.5 million naira.
Architects are coming up
Yeah.
where they design a house as half what they call tall house.
Yeah. that's like a plan.
It's like it must be well laid out from the beginning.
Okay.
We are ending up with a 4 bedroom house or a 3 bedroom house. But the facade outside, there will not be difference between 4 bedroom house and a 3 bedroom house. When it's finally finished. When you go out, you can say, yeah, they all look like alike, but one is the 4 bedroom, the other one is the 3 bedroom.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you. So we have come to the end of the final lecture, and we're about to wrap up this event. But the event won't wrap up without announcing our winner for the Youth for Urban Future Challenge, right? Like I said earlier in this event, we called for entries from young people on how they can meaningfully engage to create a better urban future, and then um, we had about 20 entries. So my colleague will be here shortly to take over from me, and the winner of this challenge will be announced like right now. Stay tuned. Ibuka, over to you.
All right, hello everyone. It is time for us to announce the winner of the Youth for Urban Future Challenge. So first of all, I want to really commend everyone who participated. Like Christy said earlier, the entries were really creative and they showed how intelligent and how ready the youth are for a change for our urban future. She also said that we had over 20 entries. But let me quickly say that some of them were rejected because they came in late, for other reasons, like some people didn't register, so we had to ignore those entries. So we took about 20 entries. And I would also state that we had 6 impartial judges from different places across the globe. They sent their entries, we collated it, and did an average. Automated it. There was no emotions attached to it. It was just automated. And she had talked about the criteria and just giving us this thing to show that it was really impartial. We selected it as it came. The creativity, I'm sure she said it earlier, was 20% relevant to the theme, 30% the presentation style, which also included the duration, was 20%. Impactful message, how feasible was it, how impactful was it, was 20%. And the media engagement, we asked you to tag as many people, your friends tag us, it was 10%. So again, it was really tough, it was really close. And on that note, I would like to profoundly thank some of our participants, Eze Martina, Anita Awokoji, Salma Hassan, and Wanko Praise. Thank you very much. We really enjoyed your entry. They were really insightful. Then Mayowa Lillian and Adekunle Ayomude. Personally, I particularly enjoyed your entries, but unfortunately, you overshot the time. We told us 60 seconds or below. Someone like Adekunle did his own with 95 seconds. So these are some of the reasons why, unfortunately, you couldn't win. So the big announcement, the winner of the challenge, over 250,000 naira prize, is none other than Ikeme Uche Sixtus. Thank you very much. We'll be hearing from Uche shortly. Thank you very much. Uche, over to you.
you can respond, you can say something in 1 minute or two to real initiative, and then you in that 3 minutes or 4 minutes, you would also say quickly, just tell us how young people can be engaged to create a meaningful urban future. Over to you.
Importantly, the vibrant youth of today. My name is Ikeme Ochechugwu 62, and today I stand before you to discuss a topic that is not just close to my heart, but also crucial for the future of our cities, which is how youth can be meaningfully engaged in creating a better urban future. Before I start, we can't overemphasize the power of youth. According to statistics, over 70% of Nigerians' population is under 30 years, and 42% is under the age of 15. So let's acknowledge the incredible potential that lies within the youth. The youth are not just leaders of tomorrow. We are innovators, activists, and thinkers of today. Our energy, creativity, and fresh perspective can catalyze change in ways that we can only begin to imagine. So for me, here are ways I think youth can be meaningfully engaged to create a better and sustainable urban future. It requires three things. I break it down into three things. One, education and awareness. Um, Empowerment and opportunities. The first step is education. Young people need to be aware and educated about um, the urban sustainability and our society at large. This can be in educating them on climate change, housing, transportation, and the rest of them. So if these things are being inculcated in our curriculum, schools and community organizations can partner to create programs that teach not just about the issue, but also about solution. And also focus on equipping young people with skills in STEMs, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This field will drive innovation in urban planning, architecture, and sustainable technology. Imagine a workshop where students learn about sustainable architecture or urban farming or about climate change. Now they are aware, they are going to think, okay, now I'm aware of what's happening. I can work towards making a better and urban society or urban future. The next point is empowerment. Now that the youths are aware and educated about these changes, the government or societies, organizations need to empower the youth by involving them in hackathons, idea things, like this kind of challenge now, real initiative posted, for them to come up with ideas, for them to come up with solutions that can make our society and our environment sustainable and reliable. Also, encourage young Nigerians to create solutions for urban challenges through recycling, through startup incubation centers. And so government can also offer mentorship programs, apprenticeship, internship, and entrepreneurial training for young Nigerians who want to create urban solutions. Also, for youth into agriculture, like some of my friends are into agriculture, I feel the government should also involve them in urban farming projects that promotes food security and reduce urban carbon footprint. And lastly, opportunities. If the youth is educated and aware and is also empowered, lastly, the youth need opportunity. Opportunities can be by creating jobs in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and eco-friendly construction. Also, encouraging young Nigerians to pursue careers in this field to ensure that they become active participants in building a green urban future. Another opportunity also is by volunteerism and community engagement. When the government and societies and organizations foster a culture of volunteerism where young people can come out to volunteer by cleaning up the environment, planting a tree, recycling, and also the organization or government giving back to them and maybe incentive or something. This will encourage youth to come out and also make our society and our environment sustainable at large. And lastly, under the opportunity, civic engagement and youth leadership. One of the most effective ways to engage we youth is through civic participation, through community organizations, digital platforms, give young people a voice in shaping the policies that directly affect their future. So in conclusion, engaging our youth in creating a better urban future is not just beneficial, it is essential. By educating us, involving us in community decision making, leveraging technology, providing mentorship, internship, paid internship opportunities, and also celebrating our hard work, we can empower, we can be empowered to take charge of our city. So let's work together, governments, educators, and community leaders to create an environment where young voices are not just heard, but amplified. And together, we can build cities that reflect the hopes and dreams of our future generations. Thank you very much, Real Initiative, one more time. And thank you all the sponsors. And I'm really, really grateful to be selected as one of the winners. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Uche. Congratulations once again. And thank you so much to everyone who participated in the challenge. Thank you so much to everyone who participated in this event. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for staying through. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again next year. First Monday in October 2025. Thank you so much. Our website, realinitiative.ng, you can check it out, check out our articles, download them, follow us on Instagram, follow us on LinkedIn, Real Initiative. Thank you so much. Have a pleasant day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah.
As you can see, I'm at the bridge of the community and it has collapsed. It is still collapsing and it's been like this for 2 months and it's been left unattended. So many people are having a hard time commuting from their houses to work, to church, to the mosque, and they're having a hard time living their lives. Whenever it's flooded, this bridge costs people their lives. It's been a hard life for the people of the Dogongada community.
Anytime when I did in my house, I used to shed tears. In the road, this bridge is community effort and one developer. We join hands together and construct this bridge. And we construct this bridge in 2016. Up to now, every year we used to do maintenance. It's just this year, recently, went beyond our power and the bridge collapsed. The only what we have in government achievement is just primary school.
Almost every year we lost people in this way, not 1, 2, every year. And we thank God because at any time when any incident happened concerning this bridge, FEMA used to come to assist. And when they come, they take the dead body to mortuary. That is all.
Most especially these students that just resume the school bus is hard. They will now turn around and go to school. But assuming it's straight road, it will be easier for them and us. That now it's leg that I use and come down from my house to the junction. But if it is before, I will get. It's because of I have fear in me. That's why I don't enter bike. I don't want any excuse.
And anytime, this is only the access road that you have to the main road. The one that you are following, except you follow through Apo, you now bust out to Kabusa before you lead to this community. Our road initially before it was through estate, before the estate now take over the road. So before they now construct another road for us. Even this road that we are even seeing is the community effort. Government has never intervened in our matter in this community. We have been suffering.
Adequate road infrastructure is necessary for people to live a good life. And it just not only provides them with a good life, it provides them with access to healthcare, to schools, to education, to their workplaces. And this is necessary for every human being.
And this community has been in existence for even before 1967, that is when the FCT came.